Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace reporting live here at the Blue Note here in New York City. As part of the 30th anniversary of the Blue Note, one of the special performances this week is none other than the legendary Brenda Russell.
You don't scare the beat when you're here in the street, walking in New York. There's a kind of heart you become a part of. Walking in New York. Walking in New York. Me and my friend just walking and talking. Walking in New York. There are times that will always stay somewhere in your thoughts. One of mine will always be walking in New York. Oh, oh. All you need is one good friend and some time to spend. Yeah. Stopping for coffee in some cafe. Life without a care, yeah, yeah. Oh, but you don't skip a beat when you're hitting the street. Walking in New York, ooh, there's a kind of heart you become a part of. Walking in New York, yeah, yeah, yo. Walking in New York, oh, me and my friend just walking, talking, walking in New York. Choo, 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 choo.
This has been a whirlwind week for you, Mr. Giroux, and Mr. Duke. How are you taking all of this?
I am having so much fun because this is my first time working with George Duke, and as long as I've known Terri Lyne Carrington, who's playing drums tonight, I had never worked with her, and so thrilled. And to have Esperanza up there with us is just magnificent. And George is surrounded by women, hot women.
This has been great just to see your songs interpreted by, like you said, all this power.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. You know, I've worked with a lot of the greatest musicians, really. I'm very fortunate. And, you know, they consider it fun because they like to play my music, and that's a great honor for me.
You're back at home, too. This is where it all started, Brooklyn.
Yes, sir. It started right here in Brooklyn. I can't believe it. It's like totally full circle for me. Yeah.
Your father, I understand, and your mother also had the music bug.
Absolutely. My mom is a songwriter, so, you know, I thought everybody's mom wrote songs. It took me a minute to grasp that. My dad's a singer, wonderful singer, and a drummer. And so I grew up with a lot of music in my house.
I understand that you accidentally got into the singing business by just hanging out accidentally somewhere.
Yeah, that's funny. That's probably my high school story. I went to high school in Canada, and the day after high school, I went to a club to see a girl group, and we had no money to get in, so we were hanging around the backstage door, and the manager came out, and he walked right up to me. I was standing with 3 other women, and he walked right up to me and said, "Do you sing?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, we need a girl in the group." And that was my first entry into the music business. Of course, I didn't really believe him. I just thought he, you know, was just giving us a line or something. But I actually did end up joining that group, and it changed my life. Yeah, there was a group called the Tiaras. It was like a Supremes kind of group back in the 60s in Toronto.
Just as I walk through the door, I can feel your emotion. Yeah, yeah. Come with me back to love you. Oh, no, caught in the middle right now. Just a little when I think you let go. Oh, no, give up on that middle I cry just a little when you play piano. Yeah.
when you graduated from high school, you took part in probably one of the most prolific rock operas or plays called Hair.
Yes.
Hair was actually kind of like a graduating class of great talent. Donna Summer, Meatloaf, Melba Moore, Ben Vereen, you. What was it that you learned from
You're
Hair?
just giving a few great ones. Diane Keaton, she was in Hair. A lot of amazing people came out of Hair. Couldn't even name them. That was a great experience. I was, you know how Oprah talks about how she was destined to be in The Color Purple. She wanted to be in that movie so bad. I'm sure everyone's heard that story. That's how I was about Hair. I mean, it was just, I had to be in that show. I did everything. I auditioned in 3 different cities. Toronto and Los Angeles, New York. I ended up in the Toronto cast. Yeah.
What was it about that play that kind of turned you on musically, that you knew you were going to pursue this full time?
Well, because it represented the culture at the time, and I was part of that culture, you know, the flower child. I was such a loving flower child person, and that sort of encapsulated that whole culture, that whole hippie, peace, love, groovy thing was just beautifully put into a musical by Ragno and Rainey, I think their names were, yes.
You can reach me by railway. You can reach me by trailway. You can reach me on an airplane. You can reach me with your mind. You can reach me by caravan. Cross the desert like an airplane. I don't care how you get here, just get here if you can. You can reach me by sailboat, climb a tree and swing road to road, take a sled and slide down slow into these arms of mine. You can jump on a speedy coach, cross the border in a blaze of hope. I don't care how you get here, just there are hills and mountains between us, always something to get.
Your story is just so amazing because you knew that you were going to be a songwriter,
Yes.
but somehow the elements put you around songwriters, being Neil Sedaka and also Elton John.
Right.
Tell me about that.
Well, first I got married, and my husband and I were a duo. We were Brian and Brenda Russell. We made 2 albums on Elton's label, which is called Rocket. So that was cool. And before we actually made the records, we started singing with Neil Sedaka because he was making his big comeback. I hear laughter in the rain. Well, that's me and Brian and a couple other friends singing background on that record. It was fun. And then we worked with Elton. We played, sang background with him. It was sort of breaking us in, you know, and then we made our own albums on his label. So we were taught by some serious people.
Yeah, Neil wrote that big million seller by the Captain into Neil.
Right.
Love will keep us together.
Yeah, and Happy Birthday, Sweet 16, and, you know, he's got a list.
Working on a groovy thing?
He did that too?
Yes, he sure did.
Wow. Let's slap him later.
Yeah. Tell me the very first record that you wrote, and how did you feel about writing that?
It was a song called Gospel Rock. I started out writing gospel music. Some people would laugh at that now, but actually I was writing gospel songs. And I wrote a song called Gospel Rock, and that was the first song I had recorded for my group. The group was called Dr. Music. It was in Toronto. Mm-hmm.
You've had some wonderful partnerships.
Yes.
A man by the name of Mr. Herb Alpert
Yes.
heard you and he signed you
Yes.
not once but twice.
Yes.
Tell me, how you guys met?
You knew your stuff, didn't you? You know what you're talking about here.
I don't like to come unprepared.
I like that. Yes, Herb was a great fan, and you know, things happen in the record business, you know. But then when the first time around, I had So Good So Right, which was going up the charts, and I was on a subsidiary label called Brenda. I can't think of it right now, but it was owned by Tommy LaPuma, who was a great producer. Horizon, it was called Horizon Records, and then Horizon went down, and then Herb signed me to A&M, and I did a record, and then it didn't work out so good, and next time around he signed me again because I had Get Here and Piano in the Dark, and he really believed in me. There's 3 times I was actually in his family.
Well, you know, Herb is a very, very wise, and he's very great at spotting talent. I mean,
Yes.
without him, we probably never would have heard of a man by the name of Sting and the Police,
That's right.
the Carpenters,
Carole King.
Yourself. What inspires you to write? What just turns on your light and says, I gotta write these songs?
Well, life, God, that's my main source, you know, because I had a terrifying moment when I wrote my first song, because I am not a taught person. I never learned to read or write music. It's all through hearing and figuring it out. And I was scared after I wrote my first song. I thought, I don't know what I'm doing. How can I ever do that again? And it was sort of like I had a revelation that said, it's just not all about you. This is something that's being gifted to you. And when I understood that, then I thought, oh, the door is wide open. That means if I have a desire to do this, and the love and the passion, I can just write anything. Really, you can write anything. You limit yourself, you know, and that's, I think, basically the truth. We're so busy limiting ourselves as artists.
Let me keep you please away your fears. It would be so nice if only for one night. Yeah. If only for one night. Let me take you home, keep you safe and warm till the early dawn warms up to the sun. It would be so nice if only for one night. If only for one night, one night, one night.
One of my all-time favorite vocalists next to Al Jarreau is the late Luther Vandross, and the album that he did, The Night I Fell in Love, is a masterpiece.
Yes, it is.
It's the whole entire album from beginning to end. And there's a gem that you wrote called If Only for One Night. How did you hook up with Luther, and how did he let you know that this was going to be on this album?
Well, I knew Luther years before that, when he was still, you know, singing commercials and singing background for Roberta Flack, and he actually convinced Roberta to record the song, which she did. There's a duet with, I forgot.
Was it People Bryce?
Yes. They did a duet, and he was like, I love that song, I love that song. He was like a little fan of mine. He was like, Brenda, you know, it was so cute. 2 years later, he was slapping everybody around. Yeah, I got all these hits, get out of my way, you know. But but he loved that song. And I was telling the audience tonight that I was in Sweden. I came home from Sweden, where I wrote Get Here, by the way. But I was so broke, nothing was working, and suddenly I get this call from Luther's people saying, Luther's just recorded your song, and If Only for One Night. And I always say that was one of my best Christmas presents, because it was around Christmas that happened.
And the last 2 or 3 years, the Great White Way has seen a resurgence of people of color in the Great White Way.
Yes.
We've seen it with Passing Strange, we've seen it in the Heights, and you were approached to do The Color Purple.
Yes.
How hard was that?
It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. It took 5 years to write this show. My co-writers are Allie Willis and Stephen Bray, and we just happened to be hanging out working on a project of Allie's, and Scott Sanders, the producer who had the rights to this musical, was looking for me. He was like, well, we hear she's a good writer or whatever. And to make a long story short, we auditioned and we got the job. And we had so much passion for this. We knew we would get this job, except when we sent him the tape, we didn't hear from him for like hours, like FedEx. We know when he had it, and we're like, oh God, he hates it, and he's just scared to tell us. Because, you know, he was friends with Allie, and then he called us going, oh, I forgot to tell you, I love it, it's great. I've been dancing and playing it for hours, and, you know, they're having a ball. Meanwhile, we're sweating. We're like, we didn't know we had the job.
Writing the music, too, you had the actors and actresses to interpret the music, and you had a plethora of recording artists and actors and actresses. How hard was it to match the voices to the music?
Well, once we had cast the show, because we were doing a lot of writing before the show was ever cast, because first you have to have something to present, to cast to. You know, you have to have several songs to play for producers to decide they're going to put money up so you can hire some people. You know, it's everything is connected in this world. So we had to start it out by, you know, watching a little bit of the movie, reading a passage from the book to each other out loud. None of us had ever written a musical. So we just went from step one. We read books, how to write a musical. Musical for dummies. No, I'm kidding. But, you know, it was an interesting path to walk down, because we wanted to know what people expected in the theater world. We didn't want to just walk in like pop writers or R&B writers, didn't care, didn't know, you know, here's some songs, dance. You know, we really wanted to know what that area was like, you know, what people wanted. Theater people. It's a different audience, totally.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace reporting live here at the Blue Note. I'd like to personally thank Ms. Brenda Russell for her time, as well as the staff and management here at the Blue Note. As always, please visit my website, www.thepacereport.com, for my weekly column as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Until next time, peace.
You don't scare me when you're in the street.